So previously, we saw how to go from one activity to another, and then I showed you how to go from one activity to another with data and return that data. Well, now I'm going to open up the rest of the Android ecosystem for you, and this stuff is really cool. We're going to learn about implicit intents. Implicit intents are your way as a developer to leverage other people's applications to do work for you. This means that if someone makes a map application or they make a photograph application, you can use them instead of having to write one from scratch in a way the user can configure and define. So, let's take a look at this activity detail XML. I have a perform selection button and I have a list of items. What I want to do is I want this list of items to actually perform what it says. So I have the actual values of what that's going to say here, but I need to actually take this string array and decide what each of these pieces is going to do. So we go to our detail activity here at the top. You can see that I have the spinner that actually has the selection. We have our return button, which allows us to go back to the second activity, showing what we selected. And here we have the perform button. Again, I've defined it up here. And here I've gotten the view from the actual view XML, perform implicit. And then I've created a listener that's got a onClick method with a very long switch statement. So once we get the selected item position as an int, and we've created a definition for an intent here that we've called implicit intent, our switch statement starts. So let's actually open up this and the strings XML so you can see how this works. So, in the case that you select the first thing, the item that says do nothing, nothing happens. We break out of our switch. If you select the first thing, delta program, we create a new intent, and this is where we're passing in an intent action, and the second parameter, which is a URL that is being parsed as a URI object. And this is how most of these are going to work here. We have, again, a action, which is, in this case, action view, action dial for calling someone with a telephone number to be parsed. Here we have an action view with a geo location to be parsed. Again, all URIs. Here we're using actually a different format. We're using the intent with just the description of the action to get a picture. This doesn't actually return the picture, but it does go to a camera so you can take one. And here for the fifth case of edit first contact, we're actually using a content URI to reference the first person in our contacts list. At the very end, we make sure that we don't have a null intent. And then we have this particular set of logic. Now, what's really important about all these implicit intents is just because we've decided we want to do something, dial someone or look at our contact database, doesn't mean that we can actually do that on this system. And that's why it's very important to write a method, like I did here, is intent available. So just to go through that real quick, we have a package manager. I'm using the package manager to query intent activities that have that particular intent, and I'm getting them as a list of resolve info objects. So as long as the size of that particular list is greater than 0, I know the intent is safe. So here we're calling that method that I defined. I check to see if it's true. If it is true, I go ahead and start the activity. And if it's not, I display a message to the user letting them know no application available. Let's see it run. Again, I go to my second activity, my detail activity, and now I can select from any one of these things. I can call somebody. What do you know? I get the dialer app. I go back to my activity. I can take a picture, perform, cancel out of it, go back to where I'm at. Now there is no map program here on this particular emulator, so, no application available. But that's not all. I can actually register for these things myself by adding an intent filter that is reasonable and relevant to what I want to do. This is just a simple example, and you can see that I'm choosing to respond to any HTTP access for deltaprogram.us. And as long as you have a default category for that intent, and you have browsable and view in there for this particular piece, now whenever anybody goes to http deltaprogram.us, they're going to get a choice to either go to the browser or use my application. So here I am. I'm going to go ahead and go to a browser. I'm going to search for Delta Program on Google. When I click that, complete action using browser or my really awesome activity. I think I'll choose mine, and sure enough, there's the data being displayed. And as you can see in our second activity, I'm checking to see whether or not we have an intent with a particular action that means view. And if we do, like I've done before, I'm pulling out the information using a get data request and then display it on the selected view. And that is how you get your application to participate in the larger Android ecosystem wherever it is deployed.